Hello and welcome to the All American Spook Show podcast. I'm Josh and I'm joined here with Tiana
Hey.
and the Professor Smoak.
Up.
And our Polar Predators event continues all through the rest of the month of January and all the way through the month of February. Everything that we do here on the podcast and over on our YouTube series, Grindhouse Gutter and Video Vortex, they all got wrapped up in this event. And the whole premise of this thing is it's our first ever winter event because usually we save these events for the summer. This winter event is all about Yetis, snow monsters, that type of thing. So with that in mind, Smoke, it was your turn in the rotation, and the only criteria you had is you had to pick a newer movie, which by our definitions, newer is the year 2000 to 5 years ago. So that 20-year or so time frame there is what you had to pick there. So what'd you bring to us this month?
Well, I'll set it up this way. What do you get when you cross Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window with a Yeti movie? It's not really a Yeti movie, but more of a Bigfoot movie. You get Abominable from 2006.
But I say I give up. But damn if you didn't find one.
Yeah. No, this movie too. Just also another part of the setup here is like I've known about this movie since seeing it on the video store shelves in whatever year it came out on video. I guess 2008 or something. And maybe it was straight to video. Probably. I don't know if it did. I didn't look on that part whether it did a theatrical limited run or not. I doubt it. Right.
No, best I could tell, it played the festival circuit a little bit, and then it was released on DVD.
Okay, that makes sense. And I saw it in video store or whatever, and I saw the cover, and it was Jeffrey Combs on the cover, and I thought, I'm gonna rent this one day, and then I just never got around to doing it. So now was the perfect time when I had to come up with a newer, and anybody who's watching this length of time knows that it's not always that easy for me to come up with the newer and the recent ones. So something that I really want to see that I haven't seen yet, maybe that just to pick something from those eras. I have much easier time picking something from the vintage / older movies, but yeah, this one that I pulled out the brain pan right away because it's been sitting back there that I wanted to watch ever since I saw it on the video store shelves. So, but this so that being said, yes, this is the first time I've seen it. So, how about anybody else here?
Yeah, first time for me. What about you, Tiana?
Yep, first time.
Yeah, I think kind of like you, Smoke. Like I remember seeing this because the poster of this actually looks pretty good. It looks kind of like one of those hand painted type, almost Star Wars-esque in a way, like type of poster.
It definitely was eye grabbing in the video store. I just don't know. I kept passing it over and just rented other things and never got around to renting that one out or purchasing it later or anything. So, well, it was a cool cover. It had Jeffrey Combs and Lance Henriksen on the cover. So I'm like, I need to get that, but just never did until now.
I can tell we're all itching to get into it, but before we do, we want to throw out the usual information. We want you to go over to aaspookshow.com. We call that the center of the Spook Show universe. From there, you can go check out all of our past podcast archives. You can also get to our YouTube channel from there, where we have every month series such as Grindhouse Gutter, Video Vortex, and Hammer Horror in Order. So those are lots of fun. Go check those out. And you can also get to our Patreon from there, and that's it. Also at patreon.com/aaspookshow. If you become a patron, you get episodes early, all kinds of other bonus stuff, lots of stuff archived over there. So you want to go check that out. You can also get to our TeePublic page from there, where we've got cool like logo merch type shirts and other random stuff that they'll slap the logo and some other cool designs that we have over there. So we encourage you to go check those out. And we were talking about this is the first time that we've all seen this movie, so it's always interesting to talk about something that we've all seen for the first time. So let's go ahead and get into some of the background information, which I have notes and I forgot to pull them up. Okay, here it is. So I only found one alternate title for this movie, and that was in Japan. Now, maybe this is a translation thing, but I don't think so. Maybe this is just what they released it as in Japan, and it was Cave Fear. Not to be confused with Cape Fear, but Cave Fear.
Cave Fear.
But it debuted April 10th of 2006 in New York City, and then it was released on DVD October 3rd of 2006. It was produced by Red Circle Productions, and it was distributed in that little bit of I wouldn't even call it a theatrical run. It was more like a festival run that it had, but it was distributed by Freestyle Releasing during that little run that it had. This, of course, is rated R. Total runtime of 1 hour and 34 minutes. On IMDb, it's listed as a horror, sci-fi, thriller. and it was filmed in Idlewild, California, and in parts of Los Angeles from February 17th, sometime in March of 2005. I think I saw where it took them a little less than a month to film this there. So um, it's got an interesting cast, if nothing else, right? It's a lot of familiar faces, a lot of character actors and stuff from basically all through the 80s and 90s, right? Start Matt McCoy, Haley Joel, Christian Tinsley. Um, it also has small parts by Jeffrey Combs, from Reanimator fame. Paul Gleason, the guy that was the detention. He wasn't the principal, right, or something, but he was like the guy that was over detention in the Breakfast Club.
The tension in the Breakfast Club. Yeah,
I thought he was the principal.
Maybe
was he? Maybe it was.
I thought he was.
Maybe it
Yeah.
maybe, but either way, you'll remember that dude as the teacher, or whatever the hell he was in the Breakfast Club, right? Lance Henriksen, which of course we all remember from one of those god awful Hellraiser movies, right? Yep, that's what we're going to take away from Lance Henriksen's career. Is one of those god awful Hellraiser movies. I will say that was one of the better of the shitty ones that we've watched, over the last year or so. Rex Lynn is another familiar face. He's been in a ton of. He was like the tall farmer dude from the very beginning of the movie, who's married in the movie to Dee Wallace's character, who also has a very small role in this, and Tiffany Shepis. So it's a lot of, and Phil Morris, the guy, the deputy that comes in at the end. It kind of takes them seriously, So there's a lot of like, oh, that guy and that guy and that woman in this movie. It honestly, it feels like it's almost like half of the people that show up to all these horror conventions and stuff. Like the only thing it's missing is like Felissa Rose or something like that, right? If she was in it, it'd be like an unholy trinity or something. Or
I didn't even realize that was that many people in it. Like I said, when you see this in the video store, I don't think I ever even picked it up and looked at the back of it. I just saw the front. And maybe some of those other names on the front, but the only people I knew for sure were in it was Lance Henriksen and Jeffrey Combs, and I didn't realize that all these other people had bit parts in it as well. Also, there's a little bit of false advertising because it's like also starring Jeffrey Combs and Lance Henriksen, where they were in it for like all of how much you think combined screen time? Less than 10 minutes, probably
5, 10 minutes.
maybe 5.
Yeah, it's not much. I mean, and Dee Wallace is even less. I mean, she's literally
at the very beginning,
and then you never see her again.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the guy's name. The guy that I was just talking about that was the that was the damn. So his name is Billy Hoss. He's the farmer at the beginning of it. Rex Lynn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I saw something like apparently like the only way. The main reason that he had agreed to be in this movie was that he wanted to be the monster at some point. So I guess at some point in the movie, he's in the Sasquatch.
Yeah, we were talking about that when we were watching, and I wonder who was. I mean, he's tall, right? He's pretty tall, but
yeah, but I mean,
it seems even it's like, and it just could be camera magic, but it just seems like it's super tall. Whoever's in that thing, like Chewbacca Peter Mayhew tall or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure who. I don't think it was always like kind of like quote unquote the same person. I think there were different people, but I think the main guy was an actor named Michael Deak as the monster. But I think they did have other people do it. Like I mentioned him just a second ago. But I'd seen something too where I think they said with all everything that they had done with it and everything, I think it was 7 foot tall.
Yeah, that's probably about.
So
all right then.
I guess between tall dude and everything that they had going on there, right?
Yeah.
That by the way, the guy that plays Otis, remember the asshole nurse guy, right? That is Christian Tinsley. That is the guy that did the special effects. He designed the creature and all the film's practical effects too.
And I think did I read somewhere that he shaved his head and the back for the bald spot, I think, for this movie. I don't think his head looked like that. He shaved that for his character role in this movie. And speaking of character roles, man, Jeffrey Combs in this movie is and also I did read this too, that he modeled that after one of his uncles, I believe he said.
It's definitely
The way
like
he act-
somebody's uncle, right? I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
It's very
He had
unlike
a big-
him because if you think about Jeffrey Combs in a lot of his movies, a lot of his roles are fairly similar or something
Yeah.
close to like what he was in Reanimator or something,
Yeah,
right?
he usually plays an intelligent doctor or scientist or something like that along those lines. And this one, he's playing like your kind of backwoods backwoods whatever, redneck, hillbilly type
Yeah.
character or whatever.
I also saw too where like that particular scene. Now, before I get into this, we should note that we are a spoiler-filled podcast. So, if for whatever reason you have not seen Abominable from 2006 and you want to see it, you might want to hit pause now, go check it out, and then come back because we're gonna spoil this for you. But the main scene there with the hunters, where it's Jeffrey Combs, Lance Henriksen, and the other guy, right? Apparently, they filmed that scene like a year later. They didn't film
Really?
at the same time as the rest of this movie. I guess once they started putting it together and everything, like, we need something else, and then they go back and they got them to
Do
come back
that.
today. That was cool. And honestly, you could argue that's one of the better standout scenes of the movie, right?
Yeah. That that interaction between like Lance Henriksen and Jeffrey Combs. I don't know that you've ever seen that before. I can't think of them. I mean, somebody out there prove me wrong, I'm sure, but I don't remember ever seeing them in a movie before.
Nothing
Or
comes.
just interaction.
I don't remember Jeffrey Combs in one of those horrible Hellraisers, so he wasn't in that one. No, nothing comes to mind right away. One of these days we'll accidentally trip on it on Video Vortex. Holy shit! There's Lance Henriksen, Jeffrey Combs together. Yeah, but that's all I have. Was there anything else y'all wanted to point out before we get into it properly?
Not behind the scenes type things. Not other than the fact that apparently Tiffany Shepis was pregnant when she made this movie. She had that shower scene, so obviously not too far along, I guess.
Which is crazy because I mean it's pretty much full frontal nudity, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and do the Audible. Hold on, let me type in something here. Okay, we'll go with this. Why not? All right. For you, the listeners of the All American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So I hopped on over to audible.com, and this time I just, instead of just typing in Yeti every time, I just want to type in something different, see what comes up. We got something different here. I just typed in snow monsters to see what would pop up, and this is not what I thought would come up. It looks like a bunch of romantic novels came up. We've got The Heart of a Monster, the complete series by Eva Chase. That one is over 34 hours long. Good God. Here you go, Smoke. Flirting with Monsters. The complete series. This is another one by Eva Chase, and this one's over 33 hours long. Apparently, Eva Chase has the market corner on snow monsters. And then we've got, which I don't know what this has to do with snow or monsters because it doesn't look like it, but whatever. And then we've also got, let's see, Becoming His Monster. Playing with Monsters Book 3 by Amelia Hutchins. Yeah, it's a whole series of Playing with Monsters. And those are only from Audible. That one's almost 10 hours long. So yeah, if that floats your boat, head on over to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audio book. So I think like now that we're getting into this movie, I think you got to start right away. It's unfortunate Donnie's not here to talk about the beginning of this movie because in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the movie, you see a horse just ripped to shreds. Not like it's the aftermath of it, right? So you see a dead horse, and then you hear off in the distance Sparky the dog get torn up by the monster.
Yeah.
Takes off. And
Yeah.
So we've got an early, Chucky candidate there, Smoke.
Yeah. And also that horse. I don't know what's up with the horse that I don't know. And this look kind of to me, the gore. See, they had a little bit of shredded flesh, I guess, right? It was supposed to be like the horse's head get ripped off or something. Whatever it was, you had that special effect, but then the rest of it, the horse's legs, it looked like one of those just fake horses that you have that are stiff legged, and you can push it over on its side, and it would just be, like a giant toy horse thing. It's because his legs were just sitting there like straight out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, of course, if it's a dead horse, rigor mortis, it's going to be whatever. But I mean, it's probably going to be in a different position than just like you pushed over a toy horse or something.
Yeah. Then ripped his guts out.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, there was a special effect there that had the torn flesh look, but it was like they just put that effect appliance over, obviously,
Sure,
big giant toy horse thing.
Yeah, stuffed dummy horse or something,
Yeah.
Then you're introduced. After that, you're introduced to the main guy, which is Matt McCoy's character, Preston Rogers. Now, there's this whole backstory where like he's in a wheelchair because 6 months prior he was in a mountain climbing accident, climbing up something called Suicide Rock.
Yeah. Him and his wife, right? At the time.
Yeah, his wife slips and falls, or the rope breaks, or something like that. She falls to her death, and then he fell, but survived. But now he's crippled in a wheelchair. So there's that whole thing.
I'm pretty sure he said she fell like 1,000 feet. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
You're gonna die from that for sure.
Yeah.
1,000 feet. Jesus. And
By the
then,
way, Suicide Rock looked like it was that far up, but whatever.
yeah, like why do they call this thing Suicide Rock? I don't know.
Yeah, and why would you go climbing up it?
And he fell, and he said he got a good bounce or something.
Yeah.
The way he was describing it, to where I guess he didn't fall 1,000 feet. I don't know how many feet he fell, but it was enough to paralyze him.
The funny thing is too, like, so you've got this nurse, this guy named Otis, who's a real jackass, by the way. Like, just for no particular reason, he's just a piece of shit towards Preston or whatever. But I guess it's almost like there's he is physically, obviously he's in a wheelchair, so he's physically scarred from this accident, but I guess now he's dealing with the mental part of all this, right? I guess is kind of what's going on here. Like he hasn't been home in 6 months. So now this doctor is forcing him to go home with this piece of shit guy to take care of him for the weekend. The setup is a little weird. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I was commenting to Tiana about that as we're watching. I'm like, here's this guy who's lost his wife. He's paralyzed. And he's at the place, like his doctor sends him back. Yeah, you just need to go deal with your trauma. Go back to where you're from and deal with your trauma. Then you got a goddamn Bigfoot to deal with.
Yeah. And on top of that too, he has a perfect view of Suicide Rock.
Yeah.
Right outside of his balcony. He's got to stare at the spot where it all happened.
Yeah.
And also, go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this is probably a good point to say kind of what I was said at the beginning of this movie. This is like Rear Window meets a Yeti movie that's not a Yeti movie but a Bigfoot movie. And I guess to get that out of the way is, well, the Rear Window thing is because he's in a wheelchair. As we get into the plot of this movie, he's gonna see something going on in the cabin across from their cabin. That's the Rear Window reference, right? In Rear Window, people are getting murdered, and the guy's sees it, but he can't really do anything about it because he's in a wheelchair, kind of thing, right? So you have that. But the other thing, though, is the Yeti thing. This movie is called Abominable. I expected it to be a big snow-covered area with a white fur-covered Yeti monster because it's abominable. But that's not necessarily what this is. You could put this more in your regular Bigfoot stuff because the fur was either super dingy white or it was light brown.
Yeah.
For me, it was a Bigfoot movie more than it is a Yeti movie, and because also Yeti movies, I don't know, the lore of the Yeti is more like it's in the Himalayas and that kind of thing, or at least in a polar region, or something covered with snow, right? So, I guess they just didn't want to have it called Bigfoot this or that or whatever. They just wanted to, the Abominable was a cooler sounding title, maybe. So they really a Bigfoot movie though, more so than a Yeti movie.
Yeah, I guess it has a better to it than just calling it Sasquatch or Yeti, Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Did they ever actually say where this is? I mean, I know they call it Wild Woods or something like that, but like, what part of the country is it supposed to be?
No, I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say maybe it's somewhere close to the Rocky Mountains, but it's not mountains, right? You don't see a giant mountain like you would see in the Rockies, or even like in Appalachia or something. You never see a big mountain. You just see this cliff.
Thinking, like my mind, the whole movie, I'm kind of like geographically thinking maybe Pacific Northwest somewhere.
Maybe it is, yeah. Maybe it could be.
Which would be more Bigfoot Sasquatch.
I was thinking like Eastern Carolina. Somebody's gonna come out and get stick. No, that's the inside.
Yeah, you got a rough talk. I mean, like the only illusion I think there was like this random where he's like he's researching or something on the internet. Then he pulls up this video of like a professor or whatever the hell it was, whatever he was watching, and the guy says something talking about the monster that's been terrorizing the countryside. He says something like it's similar to the abominable snowman of the Himalayas. I think that's
Yeah.
the only reference in
True.
the
Yeah.
entire.
Yeah, that was at least there was a reference there to, you know,
Yeah.
to let you, okay, well, that's why it's called Abominable. At least there's a reference to the Abominable Snowman
Yeah,
there. And
yeah.
even if it's not necessarily, you know, what you get is, you know.
And maybe there's something there at the end, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Mhm.
Maybe. I don't know. But like
Yeah.
it's not exactly what you picture in your mind, abominable. It's not
Yeah.
snow mountains, Himalayas, it's nothing like that. It's like it's more Sasquatch, Bigfoot. You know, and even in one of the descriptions that I saw, they said Bigfoot or
Mhm.
Sasquatch. So, you know, in like one of the synopsis that I saw on one of these websites. So yeah, I don't know. And even the look of it, right? Like it doesn't look
Yeah.
like you said, like it looks
Yeah.
more like that.
And in fact, I couldn't remember. I had to ask Tiana. She said I didn't even remember there being any snow at all in any of the scenes, but I think there was in the very beginning. He said like maybe when the family got killed, was there snow? Oh yeah, there was snow because there was his footprints
Yeah.
in the snow. That's
Yeah.
right. All right.
The farm, yeah.
So there's one other tie-in to
Yeah,
some
it was
snow, I
very
guess.
low.
Yeah.
But they did what they needed to do, I guess, to justify calling it abominable.
Yeah. That they met the bare minimum requirements, so they said,
Yeah.
let's go with it.
There's some snow, and we're going to mention the abominable, the Yeti, and mention them, you know. But they're really going to be a big thing.
So the dude Preston, he hasn't been at his house for 6 months. He goes there and he opens up the refrigerator, and all there is like some pickles, a jar of mayonnaise. Now, why? Why in God's name would you pick up that jar of mayonnaise and open it up and smell it? You haven't been there for 6 months, dude. It's gonna stink. So that's what I took away from this: is don't smell the old mayonnaise. That was only the first of the nastiest parts of this movie, because then there's the hunters that we've talked about earlier that are around the campfire and they're telling the story. So there's this whole story about a rhino. What was it? The Darwin Awards or whatever. And then it's this
Yeah,
whole
the
blog thing
Darwin.
about- it's a rhinoceros. The dude like the story is this dude super glues his hands to a rhinoceros's ass, and then they had gave an a laxative to the rhinoceros. So then it just craps all over him because he can't get his hands off the rhino's ass, and in the diarrhea, he just gets covered in diarrhea, and then I guess dies from this, right? So that's the whole story. But it's the dumbest thing ever. But it's hilarious, but it's dumb, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you get it's Jeffrey Combs in his hillbilly persona telling the story, right? No,
Yeah.
wait.
No,
No,
Lance
it was Lance
Henriksen.
Henriksen telling
Yeah.
the story to Jeffrey
Yeah,
Combs,
Jeffrey.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe, right?
Yeah.
I could be mixing that up.
No, you're right.
You know, yeah, you're right. But you almost have to think that it might have been ad-libbed, maybe. I mean, it
That's what I
almost
was-
kinda felt
yeah.
like that.
It felt like that, but you said that's the scene they went back and re-recorded, right?
Yeah.
A year later.
Yeah, there was something, you know, yeah, they wanted to change. So I guess they just wanted to add a little. I guess they figure like, look, we got these guys. Let's give them something extra other than what you hadn't. That's the only scene that Lance Henriksen's in, right? Like that, and then he goes into
Yeah,
the cave.
yeah.
But you did see Jeffrey Combs at least one other time.
Yeah, earlier in the store thing.
Yeah, earlier when he's like the guy at the gas station or whatever, right? But
Yeah, yeah. And that's when he was telling him about. Was that when he was telling him about the Yeti and stuff? Or no?
I
Yeah.
think
I mean,
I
he was
don't
telling him
remember if
something.
there was any mention of it right there, but remember that's kind of where they kind of dumped some of the exposition about what happened with Preston's character before.
That's right. Yeah,
It's
that's right.
Suicide Rock and fell off. That
Suicide
was
Rock.
a mess, you know that.
That's right.
that they had that's one of their quote unquote subtle ways of some exposition dumping right there. Is get Jeffrey
Yeah.
Combs to do it. I one of the better, and I think I got a couple up for highlight kill a little bit later on, but I think one of my favorites was Tiffany Shepard's character.
Yeah.
She's in the shower. She gets out of the shower, and then she is grabbed through the window by, but folded back, right? Like some
Yeah, folded backwards
and then pulled
at the
back.
waist.
Like she's folded in half the other way. Not Not the forward way, the backwards way through the window.
Yeah, now think about wasn't it Freddy versus Jason when Jason slammed that guy in the bed, that folding bed, like backwards, like from your heels to your head?
Yeah, because he's face down, right? And then
Yeah, like that, and pulled through windows.
it's a pull through a window.
But right before that, though, like you get the scene of what's his name, the actor's name in the wheelchair. Forget the character or the actor's name right now.
It was Preston, but the actor was Matt McCoy.
Yeah, Preston Matt McCoy. He's looking through binoculars. He's been doing that, and he's not looking at the women across there. But one they think he in an earlier scene, there's like he's outside on the porch and he's looking, and then one of the girls comes, opens up the window from the cabin across the way. You pervert, whatever, and closes it. He's like, no, I'm not. And then this is another scene where he's looking with binoculars through there, but he's not consciously trying to look at them or whatever. But Tiffany Shepard is in the shower, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking, and then he sees outside. He sees the eyes of the creature, which you see this multiple times in the movie, which was a cool thing. I think is when the creature's eyes are open, they kind of glow in the dark, right? So you see this kind of, I mean, not glow, but I guess they're supposed to. The white of the creature's eyes he's seeing, right?
It's something close to maybe like cat's eyes in the dark.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Fluffy from.
Oh yeah, there's one very specific scene that he looked just like Fluffy. If for people that know the name Fluffy, it's the crate, the end, that part of the story. The crate under the stairs story. But one very specific scene where the lights were shining right there on him, and he's got that purplish sort of part of his face, and the silhouette of the eyes just look like that scene from Creepshow. But otherwise, it's just his glowing eyes in the dark, which is the scene you see right before when he's trying to get her attention in the shower thing or whatever, and then you see her get pulled through the window in half like that. Yeah, that was a cool kill scene.
That's probably a good time to ask about this. What did y'all think of the creature effect, or just the monster itself? The look of it. What you think?
I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was. First of all, we're talking. It's 2006. At least they didn't try to go with any sort of CG, because it would have been really bad at that time.
There was something. The cinematographer for this shot this on 35 millimeter stock because he was trying to give it a more dated appearance, and it definitely. I think they achieved that with this because this 2006 shot in 2005, but it looks like something that was probably at least 10 years prior to it.
It's true, yeah. It could have been 90s movie, right?
Yeah. That's kind of what it felt like to me, like more of an
felt like that.
The only thing that felt early 2000s to me was the girls in the cabin across the way.
Yeah.
That kind of had
the style of acting and stuff, or dialogue and whatnot. The music,
yeah.
Although, by the way, the music. Well, two things about the music. One, we're talking about the soundtrack. It's Lalo Schifrin does the soundtrack of the movie, the score, and he's won Oscars and stuff. I mean, he's a well-known, established, accomplished, composer who's been doing stuff since at least the 70s, if not the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, it's a workman-like soundtrack. I mean, nothing really stands out that I can think of, right, as far as the score. I mean, it does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was just phoning it in kind of thing or whatever by that point. It's fine or whatever. But yeah, the other parts on the soundtrack where it was like them in the Jeep listening to not real rap music or something, but it was like you could tell it was just canned music that they didn't want to pay any rights for or whatever.
Yeah.
I like some library music when it comes to 70s and 80s and even maybe early 90s movies. But this wasn't even library music. It was like somebody knocked something out on the Casio keyboard real quick.
Yeah. It's like knock off Nelly or something like that.
It's
pretty weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the overall creature effect I thought was cool though. What did you think of it?
Well, one more thing I mentioned, that cinematographer. His name was Neil Fredericks. He actually passed away in a plane crash during post-production of this movie. So you might have seen it toward the end. This movie was actually dedicated to his memory.
We had that is a more common theme than you could think of when it comes to actors, producers, directors. I mean, recently we've got who was it that I was talking about in the helicopter crash?
Wow.
Well, I mean, there's been a few of them. I mean, it's been the one back when we did Twilight Zone, right?
Yeah,
we're talking about
we haven't done that movie yet, but we've talked about it.
we haven't done it. We're talking about it for some reason, but there was that
one we just did.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was.
yeah, it was on top of the Pan Am building, and I can't remember the dude's name. It was Shriek of the Mutilated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right here on the.
I'm gonna say it
on
was
Polar
Farmhouse Cutter or Video Vortex, but yeah, I think it was Shriek of the Mutilated.
It was a helicopter accident on top of the Pan Am building that killed him and 4 other people. I think there were 3 other people at the time, and 1 died in the hospital later. And then there was this lady on the street that the blade, came down off the building and hit. And then there was back when we were doing some other movie. Oh, Hands of Steel.
Mhm.
That helicopter in the movie, the scene
Yeah.
where it crashed and killed the.
Unfortunately, it's probably not something that happens a lot, but it probably does happen in the movie industry simply because they're quickly moving from one location to the next, or they're location scouting, or the various things that they're doing to make a movie.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
sometimes it happens on set, and sometimes it happens totally unrelated to a set when they're flying from point A to point B, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
the one thing I had read is that Neil Fredericks, that he was able to see a cut of the film. I guess not the final cut, but he was able to see a cut of the film before his death. He died, and then they made it in his memory. But it was one of the last movies that he made. This one of the last ones that he shot. So I don't have his full,
everything's done and
filmography in front of me. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting little thing to point out. But like, I think he did a good job in this. Look wise, this movie. I mean, because I couldn't find a budget or anything like that for this. I would imagine it was fairly low budget, right? But I think considering all those things and that you do get practical effects and that it was shot pretty well on 35 millimeter, I think it gives a good look to the movie. Like,
oh yeah,
story is probably there where there's some holes, but quality wise, it's pretty good. I will say, going back to the creature though, the monster, Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, whatever the hell you want to call it. I think in some scenes it looked really good. I think its face looked really good.
The
rest of the body, not so much. It kind of, especially when there was some shots from behind when he was running and stuff. Kind of reminded me of like a 7-foot Alf.
Kind of had a bit of a Wookiees from the Star Wars Christmas special look.
Yeah, not so good. You could clearly tell it was a dude in an outfit running around. You know what I mean? Like in some scenes, some were really good. Like, holy shit, that's pretty good for what they were working with. But then others, just like,
especially the kind of near the climax, whenever the showdown with the Bigfoot and them getting away in the car and all that was all done really well. I think the look of the creature.
And now that you say that, now that you think about it for a second, it's probably when you had to look at it too long.
Yeah.
That's when it showed. When it's just in the woods or it's quickly moving by or quick shots, you don't notice it. But when you have to stare at it for a minute, it's like, yeah, it's not so good, But I did like the design of the face though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very Bigfoot and Yeti-ish. There's where the Yeti look kind of comes, even though it wasn't the white furred. To me, there's a little bit of a difference between what I've seen cinematically when it comes to Yetis versus Bigfoot, and this one kind of was a cross between what you generally see as Bigfoot and what you see as Yeti movies.
It seemed to have like a weirder mouth, bigger teeth, or something.
Yeah.
That set apart from like a lot of these, not a lot of similar monsters, right?
Yeah. And there was a couple of cool scenes, I think at least twice, where he opens his mouth to bite somebody's face or something. It was pretty cool looking in that scene when it opens his mouth to bite somebody or whatever.
And then there was that one scene when he goes to turn his wheelchair to look out the window and he's like, his face is right there.
He's right there. A good jump scare. That was a good jump scare.
It scared the shit out of me. I was not expecting that at all.
That was a pretty good jump scare, especially if you kind of lean in and you're watching it like, whoa, shit. I do love that scene too, and talk about the rear window thing where he's just kind of sitting there watching it and he's kind of helpless to do anything. Where the monster goes on a rampage and starts like taking all the girls out kind of one by one. That one, not only does he pull that one girl, folds her in half and pulls her through the window, but he grabs that one girl through the floor.
He busts up through the floor and pulls her down.
But you're seeing it like you're looking at a movie set kind of thing. Here's the first floor, here's the second floor, and there's that little floor in between, and he just boom grabs her and pulls her down. I thought that was a pretty good effect.
Yeah. And that was cool. Like you're saying, we were talking about the rear window effect or whatever there of him being helpless, but also seeing everything that's going on, seeing where the girls are through his binoculars that they're upstairs, and then he's able to look downstairs and see the Bigfoot creature or whatever is in this specific room. Is he sees it before he sees what's going to happen to her before it happens to her, kind of. And so yeah, that was a cool effect of cool plot device, I guess. I mean, it is a rip off of Rear Window, but it's cool.
I will say, I guess it kind of maybe it needed a moment to slow it down, but there was one scene that brought it to a grinding halt. Right after that the frenzy of the monster, beating these girls up and killing them, or whatever. The one girl survives and she gets into his house, so he has kind of effectively saved her. Like, you're safe now here. Then he just feels the need to just tell his whole backstory to her right then and there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know we've just been through this horrible, indescribable event, but stop and listen to me.
And meanwhile, the Yeti
6 months ago,
Bigfoot is still right there at any moment to come bust through that door or whatever. Maybe you need to take some precautions here to do what you need to do and tell the story later. If you survive.
How about you just say, like, you're safe right now? We got to get out of here. That would have sufficed. But no, he's got to stop and tell his whole story.
And then the part where the nurse guy was trying to shoot him with the needle to pull him out, and he
sticks him in the neck.
Around. Thank goodness.
But he's knocked out for like a good 20 or 30 minutes of the movie, but then he comes back just in time when the monster busts in and trying to rappel down.
Yeah, that's right. He had his redemption moment, right? His heroic redemption moment that it didn't work out for him, and it ended up in a very cool scene.
The best part though is his line. His line is, "Hey, ass monkey, eat this." And then, and then
what was another thing he said? What was the other thing he said there?
Something else in there, but that's the line. Hey, ass monkey, eat this. That's the line. That was
he said some other very early 2000s, late 90s saying, and I don't remember what it was.
He buries the axe in his back, but that barely stops him. And then the dude or the monster grabs a hold of him and bites his face off. Like unhinges his jaw and like bites it like from the top of his head to his mouth, just bites it off. But then there's a little bit of a run around cat and mouse kind of, they're trying to, the guy's in a wheelchair, so there's not much running around, but you get the point. Like, they're trying to get away, right? And then basically the monster kind of attacks them while they're in the car trying to get away, and then he just starts blaring the horn. So the car horn is the monster's biggest weakness. I mean, because that stops him and like turns him around in his tracks, right?
Yeah.
Blaring the horn at him. And then how does he defeat the monster is he manages to put the car in reverse and back up and pin it up against a tree, which also happens to push that axe that's still hanging out of his back, like through his body, through his chest, and then just keeps backing up. And then just like put the shoe on it so it's just in reverse and crawls out. And that essentially, I guess that just wears the monster down, right? Like just the being pinned against the tree, can't get out, and now it's bleeding out because of this axe through its chest.
Yeah.
You never really necessarily see the moment of like, because they even ask like, "Is the monster dead?" I sure hope so. Is the line, So like, you get 100% confirmation that the monster's dead, but you just assume that he does. But it doesn't matter because at the very end, now Preston and the girl Amanda have survived.
They get put in the ambulance, right?
All that, like they're fine. So that it's a group of the sheriff, right, and like a few deputies or whatever. They're out searching, and then they hear something and turn around, and then there's like dozens of the eyeballs that you talked about.
Yeah, the illuminated eyeballs opening up. Yeah.
You see them kind of creep over the trees, and then like the eyes just keep opening, and so there's like at least a dozen or more of them out there. So like that's the way.
So yeah, either you figure maybe. What, did somebody come and grab the corpse of the other one, the Bigfoot, take it off, or did he survive the axe through the chest and the car pinning him to the tree and all that? Whatever the case being, these other Sasquatch are mighty pissed. I guess you figure.
Yeah, at first, like when a couple of eyes open, I'm like, "Oh shit, that was the baby."
Yeah.
There's
like
a
family, right?
But then the eyes keep open. I'm like, "Oh shit!"
Well,
Walked into a whole nest of these fuckers. But that's the way the movie ends. So I'm surprised now that I could find. I don't think there was another one. But I'm kind of surprised in the last 19 years that there hasn't been some kind of follow up to this. I don't know how well received this was. Like, I have no measures. You know, like I don't have a box office. Obviously, it's a straight to DVD basically movie. So like, I have no success for this thing. I don't know. So maybe
I will say this before we get to our ratings. It was, having waited this long, you know, seeing it on the shelf and finally watching it. The reason I didn't rent it back then is I didn't really expect much from it. It was a 2006 movie or 7 or whatever.
True.
That wasn't the best decade for horror, you know.
No.
So I just passed it by, but I was pleasantly, I would say, before, like I said, we get to the ratings, I was pleasantly surprised by it. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Well, that's a good time to just go ahead and get into it. I mean, you brought it to the table, so we'll let you go first. What do you think?
Yeah, just what I was just saying. It was I didn't expect to like this movie all that much. I just figured it would be a throwaway kind of, whatever. It's probably going to have terrible, you know, the main actors will be cool, and they probably won't be in it that much, meaning like Jeffrey Combs and Lance Henriksen. And yeah, they weren't in it that much. But the other people carried the movie well enough, you know, to where it's kept it entertaining. There were some dips, like we're talking about, where he gives us exposition when they're in the middle of the Bigfoot chase kind of thing, you know, when she comes across over there to the other cabin and he lets her in, and they have that whole discussion about his past life and everything. What happened to his wife and him, and it just goes, and it really kills the tension. That's the worst time to do that, because the tension is kind of built, is mounted right there to her getting in the house. That's when you needed to keep ramping it up, I think. But they kill it, right, and it's dead for a while until it gets back into the story a little bit, and then you get what's his name that has his moment, his heroic moment, and then he gets his face bitten off, and then he goes straight into the climax.
Otis,
yeah. So yeah, it's got his quirky characters like Otis. He's an asshole, but then he's got that great line at the end.
Hey,
then you have the Lance Henriksen, Jeffrey Combs, and the other guy, in the hunting scene, which was good too. That was pretty hilarious. Jeffrey Combs' quirkiness as the character, as mentioned, he modeled that. He said, I read somewhere that he modeled that after one of his uncles or whatever, right? So that was totally different. At first, I didn't even recognize that was Jeffrey Combs until he started talking. I'm like, wait, is that? Yeah, that's Jeffrey Combs. So yeah, it was very enjoyable and entertaining in that way. I mean, it's no masterpiece, but it was better than I expected it to be. Also, it was like we said, it's kind of a sort of not a Yeti movie, but they did the bare minimum they had to do to make it seem like it was. Called it Abominable. There's a snow scene at the beginning where you see the Bigfoot tracks in the snow, right? And then a mention of the Abominable Snowman Yeti, whatever. But really, it's really just a Bigfoot movie. So that's split hairs, though. I mean, they're basically the same. One's Polar, but this is Polar Predators. If I'd known all that going into it, I might not have picked it for Polar Predators. Might have picked it for something, later on down the road. But all that being said, I think I'm going to go with I'll give it 2 and I'll give it 2.5. It's enjoyable. It is a movie that I would visit again a little bit down the road, So that's my criteria, and I don't know if I've ever said that before. I know we've talked about. Donnie's said his criteria is it has to be a 3 or more for him to watch it again. Mine's kind of like I'll watch it again if it's a 2.5 maybe, and this is one of those I would watch again. I really didn't expect to like it even that much. So
yeah, I'm kind of the same. Like it surprised me. It's not a perfect movie, obviously, and there, if I guess the main beef would be the creature is cool and kind of bad at the same time. It's like we talked about. So it's like those moments though where it just slows down. Those kind of bring it down for me. But yeah, I think 2.5. I think that's a good spot for it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I would probably watch it again one of these days. I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way for it, but if there's some other version of it or something, which to that there might be, because I remember seeing something about like this was released on DVD in 06, right? Well, apparently in 2018 that MVD Rewind label, they
do.
They released it on Blu-ray. That was the first time it got released on Blu-ray, and it said something about there were some parts where maybe they went back and kind of. It sounded to me more. It was like they kind of fixed some stuff. Like, so I'd have to see the two versions compared to each other to see, but there was some improvements apparently in 2018 on the look.
Yeah,
So,
I would definitely watch that again. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe for those reasons, I'd go watch it again. But yeah, 2.5. It's solid. It's better than I thought. So, Tiana, what do you think?
Yeah, this movie really surprised me with a few things, especially the kill and the gore, that little bit of gore that we get in it. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally forgot about this movie until I seen that MVD was bringing it out on Blu-ray or whatever, and I'm glad that we got to do it for the show. But yeah, I'm with you guys. The 2.5 for me too. I could probably watch it again down the line.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have
At
seen.
least they did have some gore in it, though. Like you said, they could have
Yeah.
skipped on that. And it
Yeah,
is
that would've
2006,
been-
a time when they were still not, up. I mean,
Yeah.
some movies have a little bit of gore and something. It was hit or miss if you're going to get that or not. And at least they didn't skimp on that too much in this one. You had a few that were like Tiffany Shepis getting pulled in half through the window, and Otis getting his face bitten off for sure. Two highlights.
Well, we don't have Donnie here for the connections for the crypt, but Tiana, what kind of kill count did you find for this one?
I got body count of 12.
Yeah, I guess that. I'm just thinking in my head. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And a
Some
lot.
of them they don't show.
Yeah, I was about
Like,
to say some you don't.
Yeah.
I guess they probably counted the cops at the end too, because
Yeah.
definitely, they get killed off.
Yeah,
You don't see
they are what the scientists would say fucked.
it. Yeah.
I was wondering if I didn't know it was going to be a whole group of Sasquatch there. I thought it was going to be the one. But I thought he was going to knock their heads off like the 3, 4, 5 Stooges or whatever.
That's what I was expecting too, something like
Everybody line
that.
up. Whap, 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 whap.
That would have been ridiculous. It would have been funny, but
No, I think that's where that 2006 pops out as of that, and everything beyond that, right? We're like, maybe we're going to make another one, maybe not, but we got to leave it open for another one. So
yeah.
let's throw this thing in there that we can come back to one day. 12 sounds about right. So I guess for me with the highlight kill, it's a tough one between Tiffany Shepis' character getting pulled through the window, but I got to go with Otis getting his face bit off, because that's probably the goriest single moment of the movie, right? Is this thing like almost unhinges its jaw and bites his whole entire face off of his head. It's almost not right saying face, because it's like face and more. So almost like half of his head gets bitten off.
Yeah.
And then it drops to the ground and you see it like blood oozing out and everything. So like I think it's probably the goriest moment of the movie. So I'm gonna go with that. So that's a perfect lead in for you, Smoke, with the gore score.
Yeah, that's overall. I'm thinking you got that one, which is the money shot gore scene of the movie, right? And then you have somebody got their throat ripped. I remember. I can't remember who that was, where he bites into their neck and rips it.
Oh yeah.
Like a zombie, like almost like a Savini flesh rip zombie.
One of the hunters. They all get it. They all get killed, but I don't know if you necessarily saw it. Kind of, it was like
so much. See, there's some like that. There's some that are bloodless kills that you don't even see at all.
But then you get Lance Henriksen's character, like it happens off screen, and then you get, what do they call it? The Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's off screen. Like, ah!
Yeah.
I was like, man, they threw that in.
Yeah. So yeah, you get. Unfortunately, there's some of those. I mean, it wasn't made to be like a full-on splatter movie, though. I guess so.
No.
So at least though, what you got, you also have a who was it that had? Well, yeah, Tiffany Shepis getting pulled through the window was actually, if you think about it, it wasn't all that bloody, right? There's a little bit of blood.
True.
Maybe whatever in there, but really it's just the visceral effect of her being in half and pulled through.
Like, being pulled through backwards. That's enough.
So that's enough to be like, oh man, that gets you. So I think I'm gonna have to go, because it's not prolonged throughout the entire movie. It's just here and there bits and pieces, but really good ones. I'm kind of torn between going with a 6 or 7 on it. I think I'll go, but because of that, the extremity of the whole half of his head being bitten off, and then the cold blood scenes there, and the neck, throat ripping latex scene of the neck being torn, and Tiffany Shepard's being pulled around. I think I'll go with a 7 on it.
Yeah, I think there's enough there. Like you said, it's not prolonged. It's not a super gory movie, but when you get it,
Yeah, it's good.
pretty well. So
yeah,
that's probably fair. Well, I guess that's where we'll leave it. And the Polar Predators event keeps on rolling next week, and this isn't necessarily a pick, because next week is actually a landmark episode for us. We don't necessarily do the numbering of the episodes on the titles that you see here on the episode itself, wherever you're listening or watching. But it's our 250th proper episode, not counting like bonus episodes and other random stuff that we've done. So of the podcast proper, it'll be our 250th episode. So, but we still had to stick with the Polar Predators thing, so we kind of spun the wheel and landed on Snow Monster from 2019. I believe it's Chinese. I believe it was.
Yeah.
So this is going to be interesting because I've never seen it. Don't really know much about it. We saw the picture or a poster or something. I think there's another title like Snow Monster versus Ice Shark or something like that. So that might be the kind of thing we're in for here. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But that's what we're going to be talking about.
What year was that one?
2019. So, but it is Chinese. So I have hopes that maybe it will look better.
Yeah.
At first, my thought is like it looks like something that will be on Sci-Fi. Like
the title of it and the
Sharktopus or whatever going on over there. It looks kind of like that, but I'm having hopes that maybe it will be better because maybe it has a little bit more money and technical know-how behind it than that. But we'll find out next week. And the Polar Predators event, like we said, will go all the way through the month of February before we get back to normal programming, so to speak. So lots going on here, and of course over on YouTube. And it covers Video Vortex and the Grindhouse Gutter series. We got some cool stuff going on there this month and next month, and lots going on here with this Polar Predators event. So for Will and Donnie, who couldn't be with us, Tiana, Professor Smoak, I'm Josh. We are the All American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next week for Snow Monster.
Bye bye.
See you later.